so glad you're with us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's all about you, where you learn ideas from me so that you can take more control of your wallet. I want you to learn ways to keep more of what you make. Our website is clark.com. Got a question? Clark.com/ask. Coming up in a half hour, we're going to talk about what you should never do with your retirement money. This is an important never, not ever. And in 20 minutes, when you're surfing the web, there's a lot of stuff parading now as content that's actually what used to be called advertorial, now called sponsored content. What it is stuff masquerading as information that's actually propaganda. I'm going to tell you what you need to know so you don't get a bum steer. Right now, I want to tell you, you're really great. You're really good at this. You're going to do really well. Actually, you should be saying these things to yourself. It's what's known as self-talking. And there was a study done in England of 45,000 people. I have never heard of a study that involved such a large pool of participants. But the study found that there was an absolute clear benefit to believing in yourself. What used to be called the power of positive thinking was something that was really big mid-last century. And this study that is obviously one of the biggest ever found that if you do, this is going to sound so trite, and I know like a Saturday Night Live skit because they've done skits like this before, but doing specific positive affirmations can improve your performance. You cannot improve your ability, but you can, within the range of your ability, improve how you do. And I think that's significant. When I was a kid, I used to play competitive sports. And, all right, let's face it, I am not an athlete. I'm very fit. I work out all the time, but athletic ability, I ain't got it. But I was generally someone who performed above the level of my ability, which wasn't very much, but I performed above it because I was someone always giving myself pep talks. And it turns out in life as well as sports, there's a real benefit to you in giving yourself the pep talk. When you're going in for an interview for a job, feeling good about yourself and the prospects, very important. I'm not talking about false hope, but I'm talking about if you're not going to be able to pitch another person, you're not going to get the job, right? So if you can't pitch yourself, you're not going to be able to pitch the other person. So you start by motivating yourself. And I think, reading about this, I saw an item about it in the Wall Street Journal. Reading about this, just like it's one of those things, of course I was going to like this story because it's how I've felt, how I believed since I was single digits, since I was in elementary school. I've had this strong belief that you need to believe in yourself first if you're going to get others to believe in you. And that if you're going to be productive, the more you have positive faith in yourself, the better you're going to do. On the other hand, if you go in defeated, you're going to come out defeated. Something you may not know about me was that when I came out of graduate school, I worked in a program where we worked with people who had not had a lot of success in the school thing or the job thing. And so we worked with them on both. And we worked with people who had a lot of dead ends in their lives. And it was already baked into them that they were failures. And so a lot of what it took to turn people around was to change those attitudes. So if you're down on yourself, you got to start working on that. And the more you work on being positive, the more positive your life will become. There are circumstances in your life that you cannot change, but there are others that you have control over. You just got to seize the chance. Robert is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Robert.
Hello, Clark.
Hey, Robert. You have somebody you wish there was a way to post a rating on them, don't you?
You bet I do. 4 months ago, I moved out of the house that I was renting, and I did a walkthrough with the realty company that was representing my landlord. I was told to expect my full refund, and, it's 4 months later, and I still haven't seen anything, and last month, they even went so far as to tell me that they sent the check and were going to resend it and send me the tracking number, and
none of that happened.
That was last month.
All right. So this is a licensed real estate agency that is representing a landlord handling the leasing of the property and also getting your security deposit, and they're the ones responsible for getting you the money, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I've been working through them because the landlord lives in another state.
All right. So, Robert, the people you want to talk to is your state real estate commission.
Okay.
And the reason is the real estate agency has, under almost every state landlord-tenant law, when there is a professional property manager, they are subject to stricter rules than if I, as an individual, am a flakeazoid and I don't give you your money back.
Okay.
So you can really step up the heat on them if you file a complaint with the real estate commission. And if the real estate agency is a member of the board of realtors, even though they don't have force of law, there will be a procedure with the board of realtors where you can file an ethics complaint against the real estate agency as well.
Right.
Now, those two are my favorite options because the next option is the resort you don't want to sit on your rights, but it's not the one you want to jump to, and that's you can sue the real estate agency in small claims court for failure to return your deposit. And
right.
Depending on the laws in a state, it varies by jurisdiction, but it's common that if there's a professional landlord, that you are entitled to 3 times the amount of the deposit if you end up having to take them to court.
Right, right.
Do you happen to know if that law is on the books in your state, that you get 3 times?
I truly don't. It sounds nice, but, I'd hate to do it to them. And, the thing that's so frustrating is, that they've now tried to shuck responsibility, telling me that I need to be contacting the landlord who lives in Alaska directly.
No.
Yeah.
You rented it from the real estate agency.
Correct.
You did not rent it. You don't even know this guy in Alaska.
No, I don't.
I have an out-of-state property that is handled by a professional real estate agency, and I never have any idea who my tenants are. I don't know any of that stuff. All the financial transactions are handled by them and all the rest. It is a responsibility that agency takes on in return for the commissions they earn for representing that owner.
Right.
So hang on just a second. We're going to get you the phone contact information for your state.
Yeah.
And I want you to make those phone calls today.
I will.
And then let's see if when they start realizing you're not going to go away quietly, that they start doing their job.
Yes, sir.
Because for them to tell you, oh, the check's lost, oh, we're going to send you the tracking, and then the next excuse is, well, you're going to contact the landlord in Alaska, somebody's thinking that you are really into fish stories, that you're really gullible. And that's not okay, is it?
No, not at all. And then, even on top of that, they promised me the full refund, and then the last time I talked to them, now they were dancing around, well, we actually found some stuff after the fact. And
No. Under most state statutes, once you have had that walkthrough and both of you have signed the form, that's the end of the story. They're just maybe cash flow poor, and they may, in fact, be sitting with your deposit in an account. That's how it usually works. Maybe they commingled those funds. So it's time for you to make big noise. Hang on, we'll tell you who and where to make that noise. Scott's with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Scott. How are you?
Clark, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan.
Well, I'm glad, and it's very important you're doing great when you're calling me about possibly buying life insurance.
Yeah, I don't hope to use it for a long time. That's kind of what I'm calling about. You've definitely convinced me from listening to your show that I need to get term life now that I'm recently married. The thing I'm trying to figure out, I've used your tools and some other tools online to figure out how much I should have, but I can't figure out if I need 20 or 30 year, and I'm having a hard time deciding.
How old are you, Scott?
I'm 43.
43 would normally tend to lead you to 20-year level term. On the outside, maybe 30-year level term.
Right.
The assumption is that, and these assumptions are obviously changing, but that sometime in your mid-60s, you would no longer be working. The main purpose of the term life insurance is replacement of income for your survivor or survivors.
Right.
So 20-year most often, and the premiums tend to be at 43. You probably notice they're much lower for level term for 20 years than they are level term for 30 years, because this is gruesome to say, but your mortality rate starts rising as you move into your late 60s and into your early 70s.
Right, yeah, it's about $23 a month difference. So I was kind of looking at it over that 20-year period. That's about $5,500 more.
So give me, if you could, what is the premium per month for 20-year level? What's the premium for 30-year?
We're looking at 45 for 20-year and then 68 for 30-year.
I mean, that's not a giant difference. It's roughly 50% more. That's about what I would expect. But it buys you 10 years of coverage for a time period that would be potentially tough for you to buy it later.
Right.
Are you and your bride expecting to have children?
At the moment, we're not sure.
And do you each have your own careers?
Yes, and she's actually doing really well. She has a 50% match on her 401k at work, and she fully funds that.
You know, that gives the argument back to buying 20-year level term. And by the way, she should have a policy as well that benefits you.
Right.
Shopping with the shopping services is great, especially if you buy a long-term policy like this, 20 or 30 years. Stick to companies that are rated no lower than A+ by AM Best, A++, or A+ only. You know what I can't stand, what Clark rages me? It's when you are at a website or you're at some place on your phone looking at information and you think you're looking at a real article and it's really just an ad. It's today's Clark Rageous Moment.
Scams, ripoffs, outrages. It's a Clark Rageous Moment.
On so many websites I can't even count, you'll be scrolling a page and you'll see something that'll catch your eye and you'll think, oh, what's that about? And you click on it and you're reading something that's written just like it's a news story, and then you realize it's anything but. You know, when we look at how Clark.com presents on a phone or a computer or a tablet, it's something we're very conscious of, because I don't ever want to be in a position where you feel like I'm pulling one over on you and that you can trust the way things are laid out. And that's why anything that's an ad will say advertisement by it and stuff like that. But according to the Online Trust Alliance, which is like a watchdog about how content is being displayed, specifically what annoys me the most are the news sites. Roughly 3/4 of all these, what they call native ads, in no way disclose properly that you're looking at an ad, not an article. I look at a huge number of newspapers online every day, and almost without exception, they have these native ads on there, and you, unless you really know that website, you think you're looking at content that's really just propaganda. And I think that is outrageous. It is truly Clark-rageous. So what I want you to know is when you are looking for fact versus fiction on the web, on your phone, whatever, pay close attention to the information that's there and get a sense of when something is real and when it's paid for. Because otherwise, you could make a buying decision, you can make a decision affecting your life, and it's just somebody who's doing a clever way to throw an ad at you, and that is not okay. And by the way, for the major newspapers in the country that have sold their souls on their online sites and are displaying ads as if they're articles, shame on you. I'm glad you're with us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less, and don't let anybody ever rip you off. Our website is clark.com, CLARK.com. You got a question for me? clark.com/ask. We need to have a talk because there's a problem that just keeps going on and on and on. People who are putting retirement money in typically their 401k plan at a place of employment in their own company stock. This is terrible, 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 terrible. In fact, survey says that most people that are in 401k plans think that it's safer to be in their employer's stock than to be well diversified, where your money's split up among a bunch of different companies. The great financial writer Jason Zweig ran some numbers on companies that employees very heavily invest in the employer stock, and workers at just 48 companies lost $1 billion of their retirement money just in the last year. Too much risk. You know, people feel like, hey, I know this place. This is where I work. I'd know if things aren't going well here or not. But stocks follow an unusual rhythm. And so if you're already getting your paycheck from somewhere, and then you take your retirement money and put it in that same somewhere, you're asking for it. I mean, think about what happened to the employees at Enron. Their money all in the 401k and the company's stock. The stock goes to zero. The employee's wiped out. They have no jobs. They have no retirement money. I have a friend who was with a company that the only choice offered in the 401k was the company stock. The company went insolvent, and he, mid-career, lost 97% of the money he'd saved for retirement. Had to start pretty much all over. A lot of times people feel disloyal to an employer that peddles their stock to their employees in their retirement plans. You feel like you got to do it. So if you feel like you got to show some loyalty, cap it at 10% of the money in your 401k in your employer stock. No more than that. Because the risk is just too great. You got way too many eggs in one basket. And that is not good for you to have a safe, secure future. Rick is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Rick. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. Except you've had an odd thing happen. What is it?
I had my engine on my minivan seize up on me. And
that in and of itself isn't unusual. What makes it unusual in this case?
In this case, I believe it to be an act of vandalism, although I'm unable to prove it.
Why would somebody vandalize your engine?
Well, I had unable to start the vehicle one day, and I ended up taking it. It was leaking oil all over the place. I had it towed to the dealership, and tells me that it's loaded with gunk inside here. It looks like, there's something either in the oil or this vehicle has never had an oil change. I purchased it new from the dealer, and it's 4 or 5 years old, had 40,000 miles on it. They would not honor a warranty. It had a 10-year warranty on the vehicle. They suggested I try my insurance company. So I try the insurance company, and they go to the dealer, and the dealer tells them the same thing they told me, and they said it was, lack of oil changes. There was. All right.
Hey, do you have records of having done the oil changes over the years?
Yes and no. A lot of the times I paid cash at those quick stop places.
Yeah, but those places, if you have a pretty good memory and you can remember which places you went to, they track every car they do an oil change on, because many times they want to send you reminder things to come back and have your oil changed again.
Right.
The stakes are high enough in this case that you need to do some shoe leather to see if you can establish a trail.
Most of the time I actually changed it myself.
All right. Well, in that case, you would have gone to buy oil.
Yeah, at the department store. Bought oil filter, and did it myself.
Any chance there are receipts or any credit card records or anything like that for any of that?
Very few, sporadic. But I did have the oil change 2 weeks prior to this. And the place that I took it to, I had originally gone for warranty work for an alignment and tires that went bad. And they didn't want to honor the warranty, saying the vehicle was in an accident, and it wasn't in an accident. And I had purchased these tires and the alignment at another franchise location, so I went to the one local to me then to have it done, and I'm arguing back and forth with this manager, and we're both getting mad at each other. And finally, the guy relents, and I'm even more mad now that he made me go through that. And after all said and done, I said, why don't you go ahead and give me an oil change? Well, 2 weeks later, all the oil dumps out in my driveway, and the dealership won't honor a warranty. My auto insurance says there's no proof.
Yeah, I can't picture the auto insurance being in the center of this. And the reality is that you should hire an ASE certified mechanic to represent you. You ever heard of ASE?
Auto mechanic thing?
It's Automotive Service Excellence.
Okay.
Is a special level of credential. You want to hire an ASE certified mechanic. You'd probably find one at an independent shop to be the equivalent of an expert witness on your behalf to represent your interests as you try to work your way through. Doing this on your own is not going to get it done. I mean, Rick, you could argue from now till the end of time.
I found that out.
And you're just the hot potato everybody's pushing away. So absolutely, you're stating an argument without being an expert in the business. You must have an expert, and that expert needs to be that ASE certified mechanic. And if necessary, if it's an independent shop, you may have to pay to have your vehicle towed from the dealership it's sitting at to that ASE certified mechanic for he or she to render an expert opinion. And with that, if in fact the mechanic says, there's no there's no issue here with oil changes not having been done, then you've got a very strong case to go back and try to compel the manufacturer to honor that warranty. Good luck with that. Steve is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Steve. How are you?
Hey, Clark. I'm fine. I hope you're doing great.
I am. How can I be of service to you, Steve?
I have a question. 4 years ago, I took out what we call a bank on yourself. It's a life insurance plan where basically you overfund.
Oh, I'm familiar with that concept.
Okay.
You buy more life insurance than you really needed to create a tax-advantaged savings account.
Correct. And the money you take out, after about 4 years, it takes you to get enough money accrued in there. You can take it out, for example, to buy a new car or purchase whatever you want to purchase. You can pay that money back, or you continue the next 4 years, pay it in onto your life insurance, and then once you pass on, then they just deduct that amount from your policy, or you continue to pay, and then your money can grow exponentially that way.
And you've already done this.
Yes, I have.
So basically you're saying you don't really need the money being thrown off by this insurance that you overfunded.
Correct.
Wow. What are you thinking of doing with the insurance?
Well, basically what I'm doing, in probably 4 more years, I plan on purchasing a vehicle, and instead of taking out a loan from the bank at either 1%, 5%, 10%, I would just take the money out of my account.
All right, well, let's talk about whether or not that's a good idea. What is the policyholder loan rate that you have to, what's the underlying interest rate on the policy?
I think it's around 4%.
Okay, if it is a 4% borrow, then that strategy works fine.
Okay.
Many times a life insurance policy will charge a policyholder somewhere around 7 or 8% to borrow against the policy. If the interest rate is more in that range, the way I'd make that decision is if you can borrow on a car loan roughly around or below what the policyholder interest rate is, you're better off taking out a traditional car loan than borrowing against the policy and let the policy continue to develop cash value over time.
Okay.
Is the policy a universal life, a variable universal life, or a whole life policy?
Right now, I don't have that in front of me. I'm kind of traveling on a trip when I was able to get in touch with you, so I don't have that right in front of me.
All right, I would encourage you to check that out when you get back home.
Okay.
And the policy may perform okay if it's a whole life. Got to be a little more on top of what happens with that policy if it has words in it like universal life, variable universal life, or has the abbreviation VUL.
Okay.
In those cases, the policy may not work like the salesperson has promoted it to you as working.
Right. I recently took out around $11,000 that was in there, and I'm paying that back now, along with my annual premium that I'm still paying for my life insurance. The way it was kind of presented, it sounded good. You get dividends based on the amount of life insurance that you have, which goes up every year. When I first bought into it, it was like $147,000, and right now it's right at $393,000.
All right, so Steve, am I gathering you're a moderate or high income earner?
$60,000.
Okay, that would be considered to be a moderate income earner.
Okay.
Generally, the point at which doing something like this, where you overfund a life insurance policy, generally is something I advise to people who are earning very, very large sums of income, where the tax advantage that would come from the life insurance would be more advantageous. In your case, you've got this underway. It's worked for you to this point. I would say, fine, leave it, but I would not do more of it. Are you funding fully through your place of employer? Are you funding the retirement plan that's available to you?
No, I am not. I do have a 401k, a TSA, and I have some stocks all around about $31,000 altogether.
You've been a great saver over time, haven't you?
I've just started within the last 12 years, so I wish I would started earlier.
That's okay. You're doing it. I would say top priority for you moving forward is move away from the life insurance concept, leave what you have there, but as you save money in the future, save as much as you can in the 401k or 403b available to you as a teacher, and also fund the Roth account that you hear me talk about from time to time. They both have far greater inherent advantages than doing life insurance where you overfund a policy. John's with us. John, glad you've joined us on the Clark Howard Show. How can I serve you?
Hey, Clark. First off, I want to say thanks so much for your show. It's just a fantastic resource, and I appreciate everything that you do.
Well, you're kind to say that. Thank you.
Calling because I am looking at getting a house towards the end of the year, and I want to get my credit in shape to do so. And I know you previously mentioned that getting your credit in shape for a home purchase is different than applying for a credit card, and I was hoping you could speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, what's really important is that you go ahead and get copies of all three of your credit reports, which you're allowed to do once each year for free at the website annualcreditreport.com.
Right.
And you do that, I recommend, right around 6 months before you're planning to purchase a home.
Okay.
Because you need months to clean up any errors on your credit report, or if there's things that you're like, oops, I forgot about that. Gives you time to deal with something you may have put out of your mind, so that you have the luxury of half a year to clean up your credit.
Right.
And that is that's like standard operating procedure to do that, to be able to deal with whatever errors or oops there be.
Specifically, I believe you mentioned previously that if you have a low credit utilization rate, it is improved by having lots of credit cards. But if you're looking for a mortgage, you don't want to have lots of available.
Oh, okay.
Credit. Is that right?
So let me deal with that confusion. Thank you for mentioning that, because that confuses everybody. All right. So what works for your credit score, which is having a lot of available credit, does not work sometimes for mortgage underwriters.
Okay.
So if I'm a mortgage underwriter and I'm trying to decide if you, John, are going to make your payments, and I see that you have $100,000 in available credit you're not using scattered along all these credit cards, I'm like thinking, wow, we're going to make John this mortgage, and then he's going to decide to go buy a boat and go take all kinds of vacations and buy stuff for the home, and suddenly have charged up $100,000 in credit card debt and not be able to pay his mortgage. Right. So that's kind of that's not very high IQ on the part of the mortgage underwriter, because if you've shown a history of having available credit that you don't really tap, it's silly to tell you to close accounts. But that can happen on the eve of you closing on a mortgage, that they'll say, we need for you to reduce your available credit.
Okay, so it's not as if having a lot of available credit will prevent you from getting a mortgage. It'll just say before the 0 hour that I need to close some credit cards.
Exactly.
Okay. And then because I have already been looking at my credit, I have one credit card that I haven't used in so long that it's actually now in a state that the credit card issuer calls dormant. And because it's dormant, I cannot reopen it or get a new card. I can only close it. Should I leave it dormant or should I close it?
Leave it dormant.
Leave it dormant. Oh, okay.
And can I say one other thing, John? When you get close to the time period where you're looking for a home, most people buying a home only go to one mortgage lender.
Okay.
And that's a big mistake. We'll look at maybe now, because of the internet, people are looking at many cases north of 100 homes, either in person or virtually, but they will tend only to get one quote for a mortgage. So you can shop with mortgage brokers, you can shop with banks, credit unions, you can shop all over the place, but just do it all within 30 days.
You know, when you're going to buy a car, pricing information is great and necessary, but there's more to doing it than just the price. There's the actual buying experience. If you want to enjoy a better one, you should go to a True Car certified dealer. They're there to help you find the car that you want, and they're also what make True Car unique. With TrueCar, you can connect with a local certified dealer that you choose, so you can lock in a guaranteed savings off the MSRP and enjoy a totally better buying experience. And by better, they also mean faster. Over 2 million cars have already been sold to TrueCar users who have visited their TrueCar certified dealer. And there are over 11,000 TrueCar certified dealers nationwide, so it's probably pretty easy to find one near you. And check this, for a new car, average TrueCar users save $3,279 off MSRP. All right, so you're probably wondering, how do I do this? It's easy. Just go to TrueCar.com or, right there on your phone, download the TrueCar app. You can find the car you want, see the TrueCar pricing curve, which shows you what other people in your area paid for the same car, and that way you can know you're getting a good price and feel confident. Then you'll get a guaranteed savings certificate from the TrueCar certified dealer. Go to the dealer, and your guaranteed savings off MSRP will be honored, and you enjoy a quick, easy experience. How's that for car buying? So when you're ready to buy a new car, or even a used one, visit TrueCar.com or download the TrueCar app and enjoy the better car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states.
I'm so glad you're with us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less, and don't let anybody ever rip you off. Our web address, clark.com. When you have a question for me, clark.com/ask. Speaking of rip-offs, there are times that you may feel ripped off by me, shortchanged, misled, led down a bad path, a dead end, and I want you to have an opportunity to let me know where you feel I came up short or failed you. That's why we have, at clark.com, a message board called Clark Stinks. It's where you can post for your fellow listeners to see where I did not serve you or them well, in your opinion. And then others can post along with you. They can disagree with you, agree with you, or whatever. And if there's something I've done that you feel is out of line or wrong, go to clark.com, go to our community section. You'll see our message boards, and then go to Clark Stinks. Once a week, our executive producer, Krista, goes through your posts on Clark Stinks and looks for highlights to share with you right here, right now.
I should have never encouraged you to speak.
You must think I'm pretty stupid.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're right, pal.
So where are we starting today, Krista?
I think we're going to just start with eBay today. How's that sound?
All right. Is this eBay Stinks or Clark Stinks?
You stink.
Okay.
Clark, you talked about the number of reported disputes at eBay as 60 million and somehow concluded that they were all successfully resolved. If I understand the article you're quoting correctly, while there may be 60 million disputes, did they really say they were all successfully resolved? How do they know?
No. Okay, keep going, though.
That's it. How do they know?
Okay. No, the thing is, the automated dispute process at eBay uses some level of artificial intelligence, infuriates a lot of people, but fortunately, in most cases, people are able to come to a resolution. Where eBay does not succeed is when somebody feels like they've really been wronged, and eBay leaves it all to the automation, and that's not enough.
Okay. Hello, my guru. For many years, I've loved your attitude and almost always your advice, Clark, but I've got to furrow my brow every time you implore your listeners to only bid on Priceline or Hotwire properties that are rated at 4 stars or higher. I, too, am a Priceline and Hotwire aficionado, and I, too, use one or the other for 95% of my hotel stays, and I never bid on a hotel with a rating that high. The sweet spot for me is a star rating of 2.5, and knowing you as I do, I would think you'd share my strategy. First, star ratings are not meant to reflect the quality of the facility, but rather the amenities provided. Some hotels with high star rankings are poorly managed and maintained. All I care about are pleasant people, a clean room, comfortable bed, convenient location, free Wi-Fi, and a complimentary breakfast. That all sounds good. I am most likely to score this package of wants in a mid-priced hotel chain such as Fairfield, Marriott, Hampton Inn, Comfort Suites, Holiday Inn Express, etc. Lower star ratings are the chains that are not, that's less than 2, or the chains that are often not maintained well. Hotels with higher star ratings almost never provide breakfast, sometimes have the temerity to charge for Wi-Fi and, well, cost more. Mr. I've never bought a shirt costing more than $5.
No, I have spent more than $5 for a shirt. It's just the shirts I bought recently, including, how does this one look that I'm wearing?
It's nice. It looks very new.
$5. Well, it is new. It's the first time I've ever worn it because there was a sale that Walmart had on their private label shirts, so I got a bunch of $5 ones. So anyway, on the 4-star thing.
That was from Jay in Brevard, North Carolina.
Jay, my brother, my oldest brother, who now has chosen, he and his wife have chosen, with them both in retirement, they're just traveling. They have no permanent address, and they are going on cruise ships, they're staying in hotels, they're staying in rentals they're doing on VRBO or Airbnb. And my brother, having been out on the road for now many months, they used to do what you would do. They would do the 2.5, 3-star on Priceline and Hotwire. They've had some problems along the way, and they've moved up in star level to a minimum 3.5. And my brother is significantly cheaper than I am.
And this post was written the same day you talked about the deal of the day for the Ooma telephone on Amazon that we had on Clark Deals. Ooma telephone deal of the day at Amazon, promoted by Clark Deals, currently unavailable. So I guess they were sold out of the inventory they had that evening.
Well, the good news is Ooma does go on sale regularly enough at Costco or at Amazon, or sometimes you'll find reconditioned units at a good price at Fry's Electronics. Ooma is extraordinary. It really is great. And I'm sorry that by the time you heard me talk about the Ooma, that it was unavailable.
And we do send out a daily deals newsletter in the morning, so if you want to sign up for that, it's free, and you'll get the deals first.
And the address to sign up for the newsletter?
Clark.com/deals, or clarkdeals.com, actually, too. We'll take you to that section of our site. Clark, I'm only slightly disappointed, but disappointed nonetheless. I was a little concerned about what you said in the Clark Rages segment regarding an experiment which exposed the lack of attention the general public pays to terms and conditions. You suggested that the industry should create a simplified terms and conditions box for consumers to check. My theory and experience in working with TNCs is that most industries don't want you to read the terms and conditions in full. It's designed to bury language that only people with time and or with legal connections can go through in its entirety and notice the anomalies. They know most people wouldn't accept the terms and conditions no matter how excellent the service or product is when there aren't problems. To ask the industry to police itself is too much like right. I agree with you that it should be done, but I unfortunately don't have that much confidence for industries to police themselves when they're more bottom line centric than the satisfaction centric. See big banks. Love your podcasts always.
And who's that post?
They didn't sign a name.
So
let's call him Podcast Lover.
Podcast Lover. So let's go to the bank thing. The banks were doing all that dirty dealing with the endless mice type and multiple page terms and conditions on credit cards, and they were cheating people all the time. And that led to the new law that requires the disclosure box on credit cards and cleaned up the industry practices like that. Because you look at that box on your credit card disclosure, and it tells you everything you need to know about a credit card and stop the crazy abuses. You know, when industries don't properly self-police, that's when you end up with interference from government in free enterprise. So it's so much better for an industry to do the right thing itself.
A caller asked about investing in real estate where others maintain it. Clark said something contradictory. He recommended investing in an REIT index fund and said the granddaddy is Cohen & Steers. Is he not aware that Cohen & Steers is not an index fund? The A shares are, and the symbol's RAPAX, has a load of 4.5% and an expense ratio of 1.2%. Morningstar gives it 1 star out of a possible 5. The other share classes that their funds have even higher ongoing expense ratios, but no front end load, still have a bad 1 star rating. Did Clark forget his favorite child, Vanguard, which has a low cost REIT index fund available as mutual funds, investor shares, Admiral shares, or an ETF?
Okay, so first of all, it is true when I was answering that question, I did not explain that well, and that was my fail. Because when I referred to REIT index funds, and you mentioned the Vanguard one, I also, almost in the same breath, talked about Cohen and Steers, which, correct, is not an index fund. The Vanguard fund has a management expense that is so low that you almost need a microscope to see it. But Cohen and Steers, you can buy Cohen and Steers shares that are fantastic. Going back to Morningstar right now, they have an expense ratio with no load below 1%, which is obviously much higher than Vanguard, but you're paying for their individual research and selection of what REITs would be in the fund. Is a choice between Cohen and Steers, which is an actively managed, I'd say that is the best known, most respected of the actively managed real estate funds, but going with a real estate index fund, a REIT index fund, is obviously a much cheaper way to get into the game.
Labeling law, not so bad as Clark said. Seems to me that any alert consumer who has concerns about the presence of GMOs or any other issues in their food should be smart enough to read the currently required ingredients on packaging. With 50 states and how many U.S. territories, it would be really painful for food manufacturers to keep up with all the hype over food ingredients. I'm fully capable of looking for the kinds of ingredients that I want in or out of the food I buy. Let's not increase the nanny state to this level. Also, when a food producer gets enough consumer feedback on the stuff, they end up adding marketing to their labels like non-GMO or no high fructose corn syrup to help sell their higher priced, because it costs more to produce, products like organic. Hope this helps.
And who is that post from?
They didn't say.
Another anonymous. Hi, anonymous. Okay, so you and I actually agree on most of what you said. As far as what is happening is the marketplace is demanding the information, and food manufacturers having to change their ingredients, having to change what's in them, because there are so many consumers who are really into that. And so labeling things where people are out front about not having GMOs, if that's important to you, in spite of what Congress did, is where the marketplace is moving. The thing that my beef about Congress is they can't seem to get anything done, and then they rush through without hearings a new law banning Vermont from requiring labeling of GMOs on their food labels. Of all the pressing issues the country has, that's what Congress chose to do and rush through in hours? Come on.
On the podcast, one mother asked how to better pay for her daughter's wedding, sell work stock or borrow from a 401k plan. Clark suggested to sell stocks from work. That was wrong. Don't borrow money and sell your future for a wedding. It was a wedding, not a marriage. Thanks.
Okay, you lost me there with that.
I think they're saying like you kind of helped her decide, the mother decide what to sell to pay for the daughter's wedding.
And I should have been, hey, why don't you just have a less expensive wedding?
Right.
Okay, so I appreciate your post. I can't say that to a mom. That is a value judgment I cannot make for that mom. Because if for her putting on a really nice wedding for her daughter is the priority she has, it's shaming her to say, well, I don't think that's a good use of money for you to do that. They should do a cheaper wedding. You said it, but it's not for me to say.
In-state college costs. Clark, I love you and you really don't stink, but the other day a caller stated that in-state college would cost $30,000 per year, and you seem to be astounded. Where have you been, Clark? My daughter attends Arizona State University. Tuition is only about $10,000 per year, but fees, books, housing, meal plans, etc. all add up fast. Typically, on-campus costs, including room and board, is at least $27,000 per year. Add another $1,000 or two or three for any special programs, like an honors college my daughter attends. $30,000 per year is a pretty good estimate. The price for my son to attend a private college with $16,500 annual tuition was actually less expensive than ASU when all the costs are totaled.
But then he wasn't a Sun Devil. So this is an issue all over America, is that the state-supported schools have become much, much more expensive than they were. And tuition levels have been, and fees and all that, have been increasing at a faster rate at the state schools. The state legislatures have chosen to cut back support for state-supported college educations. So it has become a big burden that ultimately comes full circle back to my thing that if money is really tight, at least the first 2 years should be at community college instead of a traditional 4-year. I want to hear from you. If there's something you feel I could answer better, be more clear about it, or you think I'm just plain wrong, go to Clark Stinks and let me know. Sarah is with us. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Just fine. How are you doing today, Clark?
Good, thank you. You got a letter in the mail you want to share with me?
Yeah, I just wondered if you heard that all those scamsters in Africa have been caught.
No!
Yeah, and they've got all the money, and they want to give it back to people.
Really?
Yeah.
I have never heard that.
This is a new one. It's from Farida Waziri, the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, in association with the Economic Community of West African States, with a head office in Nigeria.
That sounds very impressive, doesn't it?
Though? And they've tracked down so many of the scam artists in Nigeria and Republic of Benin, Togo,
I think it's Benin is how you say it, B-E-N-I-N.
Ghana, yeah. Cameroon, and Senegal. And they have them in custody in Nigeria. And so they're going to return the money to 100 lucky people around the globe. And they got my email address because it was found in one of the scam artist files.
Really? And so how much money are you and the other lucky 100 people going to get to share?
I'm going to get $100.5 million.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that?
What a deal.
Isn't it wonderful?
So these people really just knew how to brighten your day.
Oh, yes. I'm just so excited.
Well, you're laughing about it, and you knew the second you saw it that this was just the latest come on and con.
Oh, yeah.
Think about how many people get something like this and think, wow, this solves everything for me, $100 million.
Yeah, and they've given me a person that I had to contact and congratulate me on how to get the information regarding this money.
Well, Sarah, I appreciate so much you sharing this because it's great when I get early warning about the latest way to try to con people out of their money.
Stay tuned for 60 seconds of AP News headlines right after this podcast.
Welcome to the Clark Howard Show, where you learn ways to save more and spend less, and don't let anybody ever rip you off. Our web address is clark.com, and do you know if you go to clark.com, you can see how to get advice off the air from a member of our team, 9 hours each weekday. There's information on how to call in, the hours available, and this is completely free, a service of the Clark Howard Show, where you get to talk to a member of Team Clark at no cost. Talk about what's ailing your wallet. I am a huge fan of solar power and you considering installing it at your house. We have it at our house. We have what's known in the lingo of the trade as a solar farm, where it's on stilts in our yard. We have a hillside by our house and we have the panels there, and it saves us a fortune. But the thing is, I look really dumb because we put in our solar 5 years ago. The cost of the panels and the efficiency of them has skyrocketed in the last 5 years, and the number of people putting in solar at their homes is going up roughly 50% a year, year after year after year. The cost of putting solar in a typical home in most of the country is somewhere, so it's a big figure. It's after you consider there's a 30% federal tax credit, it'll set you back $15,000 to $20,000. You're thinking, why would I spend that? Because what you'll save in electricity costs over the years is way beyond that. It has a fantastic return where you'll likely break even in most places in the country in about the 7th, 8th, or 9th year. Now, there's nothing right now that you can do that will earn back your money that much, and then after that, you're saving month after month after month. It is incredible what a difference it makes and what it costs you to provide power to your home when you put in the solar. Now, it is my strong belief that you should not consider any of the leasing offers that are being touted out there as no cost to you. We'll lease a system to you and we'll share the savings with you. Payback on it is quite poor compared to buying solar panels, but if you can't afford it, you finance it. You're still going to save a lot of money. You finance, it will stretch out the time till you actually have broken even, covered the cost, start making money, maybe to as long as 10 years. But the payback, because ever forward, you are saving so much money. And the best part is that people will likely pay you more for your house when they buy it, and you can show them that your utility bills are like nothing, nearly zero, and it's because you're providing your own power plant that comes with the house. If I've gotten you thinking about it, and you're thinking about doing it, don't be lazy. Don't get a quote from a single company. And the reality is, if you're comparing watts to watts, whoever gives you the cheapest cost per watt, that's who you want. I know there are people in the industry that disagree with that, but you're buying energy. And so the cheapest cost you can buy that energy, well, that sounds like a good plan to me. Again, you may wonder, why would I do it if I'm not staying in a house a long time? And you'll have to make your own call on that. But I want to reiterate that the buyer of your home is likely to cover a lot of that cost you're worried about that you would lay out that you wouldn't get benefit from, because they're going to benefit from it. Marge joins us. Hello, Marge. I want to welcome you to the Clark Howard Show.
Hi, Clark. Thanks for taking my call.
Certainly, Marge.
To you talking about freezing the credit. How do you do that?
Well, you take your credit cards, put them in the freezer. No. What you do, credit freeze, is a process that online, Marge, is so easy. Are you an online kind of person?
Yes.
Okay. So if you go to clarkhoward.com and you just put in our search box, credit freeze, my credit freeze guide will come up. You then simply click on your state, and it'll take you directly to registering for credit freeze for residents of your state. You have to do it. The credit bureaus are not happy at all about having to do these credit freezes, so they've not made it as easy as they could have. You have to fill out different paperwork 3 times over with each credit bureau. So the initial setting up of a credit freeze, you need to set aside 15 minutes time to do it with all 3 credit bureaus. But once you... Sorry?
When you do, everything's frozen. Now, because I've got, store cards that I use every once in a while.
Oh, no. You can use all your existing credit all you want. It doesn't change anything with the credit you already have. All a credit freeze does is, let's say a criminal unknown to you, Marge, gets a hold of your Social Security number and other personal information, and then they go out and have a blast buying a new flat-screen TV pretending they're you on instant credit, and they go somewhere else and they buy a computer on instant credit pretending to be you. Or they go, as happened to a friend of mine in radio, criminals bought was it a Ferrari?
Who?
Ferrari, Mercedes, as if they were him. I thought it was Ferrari because it was so much money. It was like $80,000 car, and this happened a year and a half ago. He still has bill collectors calling him trying to collect on the stuff that the criminal did impersonating him. So it's only about preventing what somebody does behind your back, pretending to be you, opening up new credit as if they're you, and changes nothing with the credit you already have.
Great.
Now, remember, whenever you look at something on any website, including mine, the first responses will be people who bought ads, and we mark them on our website. You go past those, and you'll see my credit freeze guide. Click on it. Click on your state. And let me tell you how it works price-wise, Marge. If you've not been a victim of identity theft, some states still let you freeze your credit for free. Others charge $3, $5, $7. The most any state charges is $10. So that would be $10 times 3 or $30 to the states that have made it free, nothing. So in order to buy peace of mind, it's that one-time fee of as much as $30 total to freeze your files with Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Now then, let me tell you when it costs you money again. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's say you get an offer in the mail for the greatest credit card ever in the history of the world. And so you say, I got to have the greatest credit card in the history of the world, but you can't apply for it till you go back on the computer and pay the fee to thaw your credit, which, again, depending on the state, would be from nothing to as much as $10 to thaw your credit.
And then you would refreeze it.
And then, yeah, you set up, you say, I want to thaw it for 10 days. I want to thaw it for 30 days. When people are applying for a mortgage because of the difficulties with mortgage companies getting things done quickly, I say at the time you're applying for a mortgage, you thaw for 60 days.
Okay.
But with something like a credit card, 15 days almost certainly would be plenty.
Great.
Okay?
Well, thank you very much. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Our number 877-87-CLARK. And Shelley is with us. Shelley, you'd like to buy some drachmas from me. Is that right?
Yeah, you want to sell me some drachmas?
Yeah, I think I still have some. I have some East German marks lying around. I have a small number of West German marks, some French francs,
I don't think they do me any good.
Austrian shillings. It looked like for a while the drachmas might do you a lot of good.
Yeah, I know now that they're into euros.
For this moment, yes.
But I don't know exactly. I've been reading some of the tour books, and I usually spend most of my, use my credit card everywhere. But it seems like they're indicating in Greece it's not as good idea. It's that a lot of places don't accept credit cards. Is that
in
right?
Greece, credit cards are not as accepted nearly as much as they are in most everywhere else in Europe. But they are accepted for a lot of the big purchases you'll make, paying for hotels, if you have a car rental.
Well, we're going to be on a cruise, so that's not a concern.
Okay, so if you're going to be on a cruise, it gets a lot easier because whoever you bank or credit union with, you have an ATM card, right?
Yes, All
right, so what you want to find out in advance is what do they charge you to use your ATM card, to go withdraw funds, to go withdraw euros. And if you are with one of the big banks, they'll usually have a win or lose kind of thing, that if you go to one of their partner banks in Greece, then you won't pay anything. If you go to a non-partner bank, they'll charge you $10 to use an ATM.
Okay.
With depending on who you bank with, they may allow you to use ATMs in Europe for free, or they may charge you some level of fee. You just want to find that out in advance. And how far away is it till you're going to Greece?
Not till October.
You've got plenty of time to get a new account with a new ATM card from a bank that allows you to do ATM withdrawals for free.
Okay. All right. And that's the best way to go.
And then you get out your block of euros. And do you have any credit cards that allow you to do foreign transactions fee-free?
Yes.
So you just use that card anywhere that credit cards are accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing to look out for is this can be a problem in some countries, is if they start to make a manual copy of your credit card, like the old days, where they, you know what I'm talking about, where they put down the slips with the carbon. When they want to do that, you say, no thanks, I'll just pay with euros.
Okay.
Because I always get nervous with those manual ones that they will run a charge for a very different amount than you had agreed to.
Okay. All right. Good advice. Well, I'll work on that ATM card.
Well, I hope you have a fun time. Going October, though, you're going to go on a cruise. You'll need some a little bit of gear for what could be some cold weather.
Okay. Well,
odds are most of the time it'll be warm enough, but you'll definitely want windbreaker sweater kind of stuff just as backup if it does get a little chilly, particularly at night.
Okay. Well, that works for me, too. I like cold. I'm from Florida, so I'm in for a change.
All right. Well, you have a great time in the Greek Isles.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Melissa is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Melissa.
Hi, Clark. Thanks for taking my call.
Certainly, Melissa. You are paying a nasty tax. It's not really a tax, but it's like a tax every month when you pay your mortgage, called
PMI.
PMI, Private Mortgage Insurance. For people who don't know what PMI is, Melissa, tell them what it is.
Well, it's a scam that the mortgage...
It's not really a scam, but tell them what you get hit for.
I guess they take every month in case you default on your mortgage.
Yeah, if you put down less than 20% on a mortgage, the lender has much higher risk of default from you. So in order to issue you the loan, they make you buy this very expensive insurance policy called Private Mortgage Insurance, PMI. How much is your premium a month?
Well, we're looking at buying a house. We're not paying it yet.
Oh, okay.
The lender, one of them that we spoke with, had suggested looking at prepaying our PMI. And I had never heard that you could do this before, and so it kind of threw a curve. And I wondered, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Kind of what the ups and downs are of doing it?
Now, what percent of the purchase price are you able to pay as down payment?
Between 8 and 10%.
Okay, so you're a pretty long shot from 20.
Right.
All right, so let's talk strategy. In the old days, I would have encouraged you to do what's known as an 80-10-10, which is where you do a first mortgage for 80% of the purchase price, you do a second mortgage for 10% of the purchase price, and then the other 10% is your down payment, and then you avoid PMI. Those 80-10-10s are not done nearly as often today, but if your lender can qualify you for an 80-10-10, I'd much rather see you do that than pay the very high private mortgage insurance premiums.
Okay.
Now, another alternative is I'm very careful when I mention doing this, but avoiding PMI is a worthwhile cause to do it, and that is if you have a 401k plan that you can do a plan loan against. It's cheaper for you to borrow, if you have enough money in a 401k, to borrow that other 10% from the 401k plan, pay it back over the years, and avoid private mortgage insurance.
Okay.
The last card to play is always the family card. Is there anybody in your family that might be willing to lend you and be in second position on the home loan and carry the second?
Well, it's a possibility. I wasn't sure how it worked, if a family member can gift or you can borrow money for your down payment.
Well, it wouldn't be down payment.
Well,
it would be them making a second mortgage to you. And
right.
At the closing table, they have a mortgage just like the bank does. But they're in second position with that 10% of the home purchase price they would lend you.
Right.
See, gifting is different. A lot of lenders will not let you through underwriting a loan if a family member gifts you that 10% of the purchase. But you have a much better chance of that not causing any problem at all. In fact, lowering the risk for the lender if a family member is willing to carry the second for 10% of the purchase.
I see. Okay.
So you have generous family members that would do that?
Possibly. It's just, I guess, another element that we need to look at.
And don't tell them to call me for advice on it, because if they call me, I always tell them, be really careful. You have to think of it as a gift rather than a loan.
Right.
So,
in November, we'll be getting payout from some of my husband's stock of about $19,000. So it's, possible that if we could just kind of get by until then that could be paid back.
Well, again, that brings up the possibility of the 401k loan.
Oh, right, and then just doing a lump sum payment back.
Right. And then you don't have to involve family.
Right. That would be good. Okay, well, that's
so
great.
Any creative way you can avoid PMI, you want to avoid it.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Howard Podcast. Download new episodes every Monday through Friday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Stay tuned for the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One right after this. When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico has been saving people money on car insurance for over 75 years. So if you're serious about savings, it's simple. Go to geico.com. After 75 years, they know how to save you money.
AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson. Donald Trump is going after the African American vote.
To those I say the following. What do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? What do you have to lose?
Campaigning tonight in Dimondale, Michigan, Trump said he's reaching out to African Americans because he believes he'll make a better president than Hillary Clinton.
I'm asking for the vote of every single African American citizen in this country who wants to see a better future.
Donald Trump and his running mate Mike Pence flew to Michigan from Louisiana, where they helped unload food relief supplies in Baton Rouge and toured devastated neighborhoods. President Obama visits the area next Tuesday. AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson.